What's up? So, in my infinite wisdom, I forgot I had a YouTube channel and didn't cover Season 2, Episode 2, so I'm gonna do that along with Episode 3 today, which I just finished this morning. I hope this season has a brilliant climax because Episode 2 was sort of an odd one. The entire episode revolves around him flying this French lady and her eggs to a planet near Tatooine. Due to her egg cycle, he can't use his hyperdrive or they'll die for some reason, so he has to fly on sublight engines to a nearby ocean planet so the French lady can get it on with her French husband. They fly for a bit and get intercepted by a pair of New Republic X-Wings. Mando doesn't have the right transponder on his aircraft and keeps trying to explain away why his ship isn't up to protocol. This ends with one of the pilots, played by Dave Filoni, recognizing his ship from the Season 1 Episode 6 with the prison break, which is the worst episode of Mandalorian so far. Mando tries some fancy flying and ends up crashed in a hole on an ice planet. While I think The Mandalorian has kept the Star Wars feel fairly well for a modern atmosphere, it keeps up the Disney trend of there being planets sprinkled within a stone's toss of anywhere, and a lot of them have a single terrain to them. The sequel trilogy alone introduced two new sand planets for no other reason than to invoke Tatooine nostalgia, and now this ice planet just seems like a new Hoth. Anyway, the ship is banged up pretty badly and Mando decides to take a nap instead of fixing it. He still has the mechanical corpse of the assassin droid from the Prison Break episode, and the French lady uses its voice box to translate her speech for Mando to understand. She convinces him to fix the ship instead of sleeping, so that way she can get her eggs to her planet on time, since either she's the last of her species or she's the last person in her bloodline to be able to have kids. They didn't really specify the difference. Oh, and Baby Yoda has eaten some of her eggs. We only see him eat 3 in the episode, but it's pretty likely the second time we see him do it that he ate several others. It's never really brought up in any other way. Apparently some people really took offense to this since you can't have anything nowadays without someone getting triggered. They think it's insensitive to mothers with pregnancy issues that Baby Yoda snacks on the eggs, which I might add are unfertilized, so it's effectively the same as chicken eggs we get at Walmart. I do find it weird how he eats these non-living eggs, and a lot of people have panic attacks, but when he ate a living frog in Season 1, it was touted as one of his cuter moments. Seems kind of insensitive to frogs, if you ask me. It never really came full circle, though. There can't be any more than 50 eggs, and you'd think the French lady would have a tally of how many she had, but oh well. Anyway, Mando decides to get off his lazy ass and to actually do something. The French lady finds a hot tub in the cave they fell through the roof of. Mando and Baby Yoda find her, and while Mando helps Frenchie get her eggs collected, Baby Yoda triggers a bunch of ice spiders called Krykna. They're offended and decide to cancel him and anyone he works with, so they start chasing the trio through the cave. Most of them are about bird size, some of them are dog size, and the mama space spider is pretty much house sized and is the most triggered of all. We'll just call it Lily Vanutrub, since I don't want to say trigger giant space spider 100 times. So Lily and her cult follows Mando, Baby Yoda, and the French lady through the cave back to the Razor Crest. The French lady starts hopping like a frog, which seems like it was supposed to be some cool biology fact that her alien species does, but since she's wearing a dress and looks more or less human, it looks pretty silly. They make it onto the ship and the cancel culture mob swarms inside. Mando manages to keep them out of the cockpit and they start to take off. They're just getting airborne, but then Lily lands on the hull and smashes through the cockpit. She gets ready to kill them by sitting on their faces, but Dave Filoni and his wingman show up and destroy their own creation. They wipe out the spiders and let Mando go since he tried to help the prison guard in Season 1, and then after recognizing his ship is barely functioning, they leave him to die on Hoth 2 for all they know. Mando welds the cockpit back together with custom-fit windshield glass he must have found buried in the snow, and they leave Hoth 2 in the heavily damaged Razor Crest. Episode 3 finds the group landing on the ocean planet. They have to make a manual re-entry, which damages the ship further, and they barely make it. Right before they touch down on the pad, an engine fails, and they flip over into the ocean. They get pulled out by an AT-AT that was cursed with a crane for a face, and it sets them down. Mando pays a Mon Calamari engineer to fix the ship and finds information in a nearby restaurant about where to get other Mandalorians. Mando and the baby set out on a boat in the direction they were pointed in. After seeing the trailer, I thought there'd have to be some kind of explanation for why anyone in Star Wars would use a boat, but there is none. The only possibility is for feeding a mama core, which is a large creature they feed through a gate in the floor, but it isn't shown if this creature is on the ship below, or if it's in the sea and it's only fed through the hole. That's the only possible explanation, but still a ship in the air would serve just as well. There's really no reason for anyone to use a water ship in this series. The Korran are dicks and they shove Baby Yoda into the hole in the floor. He shuts the lid on his space stroller just before the Mama Core eats it and drags him under. Mando dives in and the Korrans shut the door on Mando and whack him with sticks, saying that the Beskar is theirs. At this point, with the number of times people have tried to jack Mando's armor, you'd think he'd be more wary of putting himself and his kid on the edge of a monster pit, but oh well. I think it's kind of getting to be a tired trope of people attacking him and backstabbing him just so they can steal his armor. Mando's pretty much a wet noodle, as we've seen before, and doesn't use any tricks to get out, and just then Bo-Katan and 2 other Mandalorians show up and clean house on the Korran. They help Mando out of the pit, and one of them somehow gets Baby Yoda back from the Manticore. They take their helmets off, so Mando says they aren't true Mandalorians, and Bo and the other 2 Mandos tell him that Death Watch, the group which took him as a foundling, are religious zealots and are pretty much crazy. Mando isn't having it and he leaves them. Bo's group leaves a while later and they bomb the ship as they leave. As soon as he touches down, Mando gets ambushed by the boat's crew's friends, and again it looks like he's about to get stomped, but Bo shows up again to save the day for the second time in the last 5 minutes, and they take out the remaining Korran. Mando then agrees to help them raid an Imperial Remnant cargo ship for exchange of information on where to find more Jedi. They assault the ship and get to the cargo bay with relative ease. Mando's shocked to learn that they plan to take the whole ship, which hardly seems like that much to ask considering they already reduced the ship's population by half and are more than capable of making it. The bridge officer on the ship is instructed by Moff Gideon to destroy it since the cargo is already lost. The officer kills the pilot and co-pilot and takes the wheel to Admiral Akbar, the craft into the ocean. The Mandalorians take control last minute and keep it from crashing. Bo presses the officer to tell her where the Darksaber's being kept, but he bites what I guess is a gadget which behaves like a mix of a cyanide pill and a defibrillator. Having the ship under control, Bo tells Mando to go to Corvus and meet Ahsoka Tano, and Mando yeets himself over the side to fly back to his ship. Mandalorian jetpacks are only supposed to have about a minute of fuel, I'm pretty sure, so not sure how he managed all of this so far. He left Baby Yoda with the French couple earlier, and they're looking at their first newborn. I was really afraid Baby Yoda would eat the baby in front of its parents, but fortunately that didn't happen. The Mon Calamari mechanic did a pretty crappy job fixing the Razor Crest, but it works. Mando and Baby Yoda fly off to Corvus. Episode 2 was as filler gets. Like Episode 1, the one choice of Mando taking the Frog Lady with him makes the entire episode as long as it is. Sure, she could lead him to the information he needs, but she can't be the only source of info out there. I think the second episode of Season 2 is probably the next worst episode of the show thus far, taking the backseat only to the Prison Break episode in Season 1. As much as I enjoy the show, that episode is god-awful. Episode 3 this season was better than the last. At least the end of it implies Mando and subsequently the show may have some direction now. But that could be said for every episode so far since they all kind of have gone the same way. It was pretty exciting to see Bo-Katan make her live-action debut. I really think Clone Wars is a great show, and unless I'm mistaken, Bo is the first Star Wars animated character to make it to live-action if you don't count the retcon of Nick Sant being Rex in Episode 6. Like I've said a few times, I do like The Mandalorian, but it's feeling like it exists without a reason at this point. The first 2 and last 2 episodes of Season 1 were pretty strong and kept audiences invested with great action and storytelling, but already I fear Season 2 could have lost that. Now that we're 3 episodes in and almost halfway, and we haven't gotten a whole lot of advancement, I fear that we could be looking at a pretty stale show. This season has apparently gotten a really low view count. It looks like the premiere this season only got 40,000 views after a full day, which is a lower count than some of the YouTubers reviewing it. It doesn't help that 2 of the star actors are caught up in political drama. Gina Carano is coming under fire by the cancel culture mob because she says we should love one another, and she tweeted about having a fair election. On the other hand, the star of the show, Pedro Pascal, posted to Instagram comparing half of America, and subsequently half his show's fan base, to the guys that lost World War II. You know the ones. He deleted the post since, but that coupled with his unabashed support of socialism and talking down on people from the other side of the spectrum isn't helping. I'm still going to watch the show, but to people who have major issues with Carano's or Pascal's views they take outside the show, I suppose just stop watching if that's a big deal. We don't need to fire people for having opposite views. Gina isn't out there Batista bombing rioters, and Pedro isn't collapsing the national economy, so who cares? That doesn't mean I don't think that it contributes to a low view count for the show, but that's how I see it. I think that Mando is sort of a little bitch. He always gets his ass kicked in fights, and despite being raised by the best trained mercenaries in the galaxy, seeing him get almost killed by a couple of sailors with a gate is pretty sad. If Baby Yoda is slowing him down this much, then I hardly see how this is a soldier that would strike fear into the hearts of others. He doesn't need to be a one-man army, but it would be nice to see a competent character that could save himself instead of having dumb luck all the time. Had this show focused on Boba Fett as the Mandalorian, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have had these issues in the first place, and with such a little development after a season and a half, I don't see him suddenly becoming competent on his own. But that's what I've got so far. I don't put Season 2 up there with Season 1 for the time being, it's just not the same. Next week I imagine we'll get to see Ahsoka in the flesh for the first time, so count me as excited. I'm still getting a hang of the commentary thing, so I hope anybody that's seen these so far is having a good time, and I hope these are kind of up to snuff with the regular stuff. I got Battlefront 2 working correctly, so the gameplay you're seeing now is actually mine. So I don't have to steal anybody else's, so that's nice. So if you guys have any suggestions, do let me know. I'm sure to see them and follow them, because you know, a whole one person has watched my channel so far. But yeah, that's about it. And that's about all I got for you guys this week. You guys take it easy. Until next time, have a good one.